Warmly welcome, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Just
Hi.
a minute to let everyone settle in. We have a few alumni journey travelers here as well. Hi. Wonderful to see you all. Thank you for taking the time in one of the, in many ways, busiest month of the year. We will do our best to create a space that feels calming, that has a bit of that yin energy that would do many of us good at this time of year. We will try to take things slow, and we also have a little space for a little solo reflection. Usually on the journey, we always do group breakouts. We don't do that in the taster sessions because it can feel very overwhelming. So we don't do that, but that's something we do on the journey very regularly. So we gather in smaller spaces. But today is just a chance to get to know the regenerative leadership journey better. Hopefully, we also have some alumni journey travelers with us. We have a few, I see, that will share their experience. So, just the intention is to give you more insights into how is it like to be in this year-long journey, answer questions that you may have, but in a way that feels nourishing to all. So, how we always start journeys is just by grounding us into the same space. We often have people from more than 50 nations journeying together in the same cohort. So, we tune into this space from more or less all corners of our planet. So, we tune in together into this shared, co created container in every session. We start with a grounding and we close with a grounding. And that can be very different. Sometimes it's a longer meditation, sometimes it's an embodiment exercise, sometimes it's just a very brief grounding. Today will just be a very brief grounding. And it's always just an invitation. So if this doesn't feel good and nourishing for you, you do something that feels nourishing to you. It's always an invitation. But right now, the invitation is to close your eyes and ground into your inner presence and maybe stretch your body a little if that would feel nice and nourishing to you. And really turn that gaze inward and see if you can invite a deep, grounding, nourishing breath that allows the oxygen to travel all the way down to the belly area. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And just see if you can visualize your body as a beautiful ecosystem of trillions of cells currently collaborating to keep you alive and inviting in rich, delicious oxygen to all cells makes us feel revitalized. So that's just a very simple way that we can, just for a few seconds, put life at the center in our inner ecosystem by focusing on this flow of the inhale and the exhale, the exhale, inviting in, letting go, inviting in, letting go. So just do that in a rhythm that feels great to you. And see if you, with every exhale, can send your attention to a part of your body that feels a little extra tender, a little extra sore. Maybe there are some small muscles around the eye area that would actually love to let go right now. Or maybe it's the muscles around your jaw, side of the head, top of the head, maybe your neck, maybe your shoulders. See if you can help those muscles relieve through your breath, through that life-affirming breath. And now visualize the beauty of our shared planet and tune in with the part of the planet that you are now a beaming light on. And then visualize how regenerative change activators are activating ripples of regenerative transformation in every corner of the planet right now. See if you can visualize how areas in the rainforest is lighting up. In North America, South America, Southeast Asia, southern part of Africa, the northern part of Africa, Europe. What gives me the most strength and hope for the future is knowing that there are so many people out there passionate about putting life at the center, whatever that may look like where they are. And I don't know you yet, but I know that you have a curiosity, at least. Curiosity towards what would it look like if I put life at the center? How can we tap into this only system that has stood the test of time, which is living system? How can we tune into those patterns, forms, and principles? What does it look like when we put life at the center in our human relationships? In every ecosystem that we are a part of? What does it look like for us to tune into our role as ecosystem nurturers and facilitators? Addressing stagnated energy, unleashing potential, creating flow into the ecosystems that we are a part of. Whatever that may look like. What would it look like for us to create conditions that affirms life, conditions that create conditions for life to thrive in our human relationships, in our relationships to the more than human world? What does it feel like to be in right relationship to life? Relationships rooted in reciprocity and health. When you're ready, you can stretch a little again. Open your eyes and come back. Thank you for grounding with us all. I will now share a bit about the journey through some slides. So you can just relax and rest into this. I will speak for probably around 15 minutes. And then we have a little solo reflection for you. And then I will speak more about the design of the journey. And then we will hear from other people in the ecosystem. We have the wonderful community nurturer, Judit. We have one of the main stewards of the community of care and practice. And then we also have some previous journey travelers that may want to share a bit about their experience. So this journey, this coming cohort will be the 5th of the year-long cohort, but I have held space for people all over the planet exploring regeneration for the past 8 years, both physically in the forest or online, like we are exploring the journey. And my background is I'm 45 years old, and since I was 25, I've worked professionally with sustainability and climate change policy, and I started a few organizations within those realms. The first one when I was 25. So was heading big mainly focused on global business, transitioning to sustainability. Very involved in the UNFCCC COP process. And that's what I did for around 10 years. And then I had a minor traumatic brain injury. And that meant that I, for a couple of years, couldn't do anything but just be present. And in that time, I went back to a time that I had in the Amazon rainforest, learning from indigenous elders at a time when I was 19, 20. And I lived there for a while, really taking in what it means to understand the interconnectedness of life, the greater web of life, our role as guardians and caretakers, and being in right relationship. And then I wanted to understand the machine from the inside out. So I went back to Europe and studied business at Copenhagen Business School and London. So that's where I have my master's in. But that's many, many years ago now. I did a master's in how low carbon businesses, what are the main barriers to achieve a low carbon business strategy? That was the term, I don't know, 18 years ago. So that period of resting and resting into uncertainty allowed me in many ways to reconnect to the patterns of life that I was taught as an old teenager in the Amazon forest. And then I started to explore fields like biomimicry and biophilic design, but wove that together with adult development psychology, and met my co-author Giles Hutchins back in 2017, and he and I wrote a book called Regenerative Leadership that no publisher wanted to touch back in 2018. So we published it ourselves, and since then it's become an international bestseller and is now translated to 8 different languages. And the reason for that, I think, is that there's a collective longing among so many people that wants to put life at the center, that wants to understand how they can contribute to a world in balance. So then I started to hold a lot of these types of spaces, and the year-long journey experience has now evolved into quite a big global community that you will hear more about. So that was a bit about me. This session today is why did we want to hold space for the journey? How is it designed? What will we explore? What are the elements in it? Trying to get your heads around this experience, and create a chance for you to connect with people that have been on the journey in the past. All right, so this is me. I'm Laura, and Judith is the community nurturer. So she is someone that you will get to meet every time we have a live session. And Judith will share a bit about her work, her role as a community nurturer, and how she contributes building the soil, the health of the soil for this journey experience. So we will meet Judith in a little while. A very amazing woman. All right, so maybe you have seen this visual illustration that we did with Niels, who is our amazing designer. And the reason it looks like this is we wanted to visualize how the journey experience can feel like. It can feel like we gather in the midst of a forest with people from all walks of life that, as I've already shared, that shares this passion of putting life at the center. So we represent many different biotopes and biospheres and bioregions, and we represent governments, politicians, municipalities, community leaders, farmers, architects, designers, people from the corporate world, people that are doing activism work in rainforest, in the Asia Pacific, also we have quite a few that are doing amazing work in the Ecuadorian part of the Amazon, the Brazilian part of the Amazon. So in many ways, we are very different. But what is the same essence in every journey cohort is that regardless of whether you work in a municipality in Denmark, or you work as a community builder in Nigeria, West Africa, or you are a farmer in Australia, or work for rainforest reforestation in the Brazilian part of the Amazon, there's a shared dedication and a kind of a fierce dedication and passion towards putting life at the center and understanding what that looks like, whether you work for Mercedes-Benz or whether you work as an architect or a farmer. So we gather around the same fire and we share lessons learned, we share tensions, we share best practices, we share experiences. So we never really know exactly what each journey cohort, how that journey will unfold and what will emerge, because it's always unique, a unique constellation based on the uniqueness of the journey travelers in each of the cohorts. But we need regenerators in all walks of life. We need regenerative practitioners because the state of the planet is in dire need of people that understand that we are part of a greater interconnected web of life. This is the great acceleration graphs that many of you have maybe seen before, but it's very clearly showing that since the industrial era, especially since the 1950s, everything from CO2 emissions to ocean acidification to GDP to population growth to tourism growth to fertilizer consumption has been on the same steep increase, which has caused a cascading collapse of life-giving ecosystems. When I started to talk about the planetary boundaries framework, I remember it was 3 out of 9 planetary boundaries we had crossed, and now we have just a couple of months ago reached the 7th out of the 9 planetary boundaries that we have crossed if we don't want to avoid, or if we want to avoid planetary collapse of life-giving ecosystems. And to me, and part of our of the approach in this journey is that it's interconnected. So we not only have recrossed planetary boundaries, we have also crossed human boundaries. We have extracted and exploiting ourselves just as we have extracted and exploited our planet. So Gallup is every second year doing a massive study asking 154,000 people from 128 different countries about the state of their health. And every second year, those stats are getting dire and dire. So it's quite a severe landscape that we are navigating in. And what we are weaving into the journey is not just understanding planetary boundaries and living systems logic, but it's also understanding our own nervous systems. We weave in with, for example, the polyvagal theory of Steve Porges. Maybe some of you are familiar with that framework. I won't go through it in detail here, but just for you to understand that this is part of this ecosystem, that everything is interconnected. And human beings who are in a constant either brainwaves are in high beta brainwave mode, which means that we can only think in silos. We get tunnel vision. It's impossible for us to think in interconnected systems. When our nervous systems are in a neuroception of danger, the ego survival strategies kicks in, and that is not helping us create conditions conducive for life. So this is not set with judgment or shame because it's part of the human experience to activate that part of our nervous systems. What we explore in the journey is to cultivate our awareness around when am I in find, fawn, flee, or fight, and how can I catch myself before I create ripples of chaos and destruction around me, come back to center, and do the strategies that I have in place for nourishing myself so I can come back and activate healthier ripples. So that's one of the many threads that we weave with on the journey. We weave with, for us in this landscape, It's equally important to understand biomimicry as it is to understand our nervous systems, and that's part of our essence. It's part of our understanding that everything is interconnected, and we need to transform our approach to solutioneering. Solutioneering is the old world's logic that we can fix everything in a siloed way. The regenerative approach is an interconnected, holistic approach that understands that, for example, as I just said, the quality of our nervous systems is equally important as it is for us to understand how we designed a production system based on circularity, for example. So a regenerative approach and how we approach this on the journey is that we always need to work on three levels. We need to understand the inner dimensions of ourselves. We need to understand the inner dimensions of the ecosystem that we hold space for, whether that's our family or it's our company or organization. We need to understand the outer, and we need to understand the ecosystemic impact that our actions have. So inner is who we are, it's our culture. Outer is what we do and the ripples that we activate. And the third dimension is that the impact that we have on the fabric of life. And that can be social, and that can be ecosystemic, based on understanding the impact we have on the very fabric of life-sustaining ecosystems. But it can also be the fabric of human health. So, for example, if we are an organization on the inner dimension, we look at psychological safety, well-being, the level of trust, how is the quality of collaboration, how satisfied are employees working here, is there a collective shared sense of purpose, what is the stress levels, all of these dimensions are important, but they can't stand alone. And often for example, HR team is looking at their work very much in silos. I believe that we need a more holistic approach and see the interconnectedness of all of these threads. And throughout the journey, we will meet companies that are weaving on all three levels at the same time. And we will explore the synergies that this create. That when the inner core of our organization is beaming of health and high quality relationships, a high degree of trust and sense of safety and belonging, it actually does have massive ripples on our innovation capacities, on the projects that we initiate, and all of this is interconnected. So this is part of the things that we are exploring on the journey, the inner, outer, ecosystemic. And how do we, as ecosystem facilitators, how do we train our capacity to connect the dots and explore the quality of the relationships between all of these dimensions, the quality of relationships among the key nodes in our ecosystem? And how can our role as regenerative change activators be to help strengthening those interconnected relationships? Because in the regenerative landscape, we understand that strong relationships determine that specific living system's carrying capacity. So the stronger the connections and relationships, the stronger that system is, and the stronger the capacity is to withstand all kinds of systemic shocks that will inevitably come our way. So that's part of how we are exploring living systems thinking, our role as ecosystem facilitators, understanding the logic of life, living systems wisdom. Understanding that we always have to travel through these three aspects of regenerative transformation, regenerative activities and initiatives. So that was key for me to share. Another dimension that is key for me to share is that this journey, I don't want to contribute to just kind of polishing the surface. I don't want to contribute to just adding a few life-affirming words. And the reason that I say this in this way is there's a trend right now where people have fallen in love with the regenerative language, because there is this longing towards life-affirming pathways. which I deeply, deeply, deeply understand and resonate with. Sometimes there's an eagerness to just start using a different vocabulary and call ourselves regenerative without the willingness to go to the root cause. Go to the root causes of understanding what created this mess in the first place, and sitting with that uncomfortable truth. I want to do the very best that I can, and I have, of course, many flaws as well. We all have flaws and things that we can work on our entire lives. But for me, it's important that this journey contributes to an understanding of the field of regeneration as one that has to focus on decolonization as well. Understanding our inner colonizer, or understanding our inner capitalist. For me, that's front and center. And what many journey travelers experience from there is that even though it's an unpleasant chapter to explore, there's a lot of things that start to be dismantled in a way where it's creating the exact fertile foundation for them to start to really weave new regenerative ways instead of just kind of adding a new layer. This is just not about adding a new layer. This is also a journey of unlearning, of letting go with elements that we have acquired through our lives that does not serve life. So we sit with understanding the story of separation, because the journey of a regenerator is a journey of remembrance, of remembering the wholeness of life that has been discarded, and there has been almost like a collective chasm in our psyche that we need to sit with as well. So that's part of the journey, and something that I want to be very honest about, that this is also a journey where we take it seriously, how we can contribute to healing the story of separation by going to the root cause. By going to the root cause of power over manipulative narcissistic patterns, so that we truly can more consciously start to weave new regenerative pathways. Knowing that we will never get this totally right, knowing that we will trip and fail and we will mess things up, but in our journey community, there's a willingness to bravely roll up our sleeves and go to the root cause to understand that. Understand certain historical events that has happened, that has the witch hunts is one of them. Understanding what the witch hunts actually did, and how that has influenced certain parts of culture everywhere in the world. So another part of this journey is to understand how can we support the regenerative transition. How can I move above and beyond just understanding, for example, the B Corp framework or the Sustainable Development Goals, but move into a realm where we are exploring the organizations, municipalities, any ecosystem as vibrant living systems, and our role as ecosystem facilitators, holding that transition, supporting that transition without controlling it, creating the space for that transformation to emerge and happen in its own time. We also weave the Buchanan Institute two-loop model in again and again, because it's very saying for this time that we are navigating as a collective, that we are going through a breakdown and a breakthrough, and this is happening simultaneously. One of the things that we do in the second phase of the journey is to explore this through archetypes. Explore how we can help hold space for this transition through archetypes. The archetype of the hospice worker holding space for the needed energy of death. The archetype of the midwife holding space for the new life that wants to emerge. The archetype of the community nurturer, the archetype of the pioneer, the archetype of the visionary illuminator, the archetype of the trickster disrupting. So this is another key component of our journey, that we are exploring how we as individuals can hold space through that and experiment with embodying different kinds of roles through archetypes. So this is the essence of the shift in leadership that we need to see. And again, it's not a rigid 10-step process that we are perfecting throughout a year, because it can look very differently in different kinds of situations. There's not a formula, there's not a one size fits all, and that's something that we explore again and again and again, and something that becomes more of an embodied experience, because we are trying new ways of being in the world. We are coming back to this global fireside and sharing our practices, sharing our learnings. Then we are entering out again into the world, experimenting with new things, coming back into the fireside circle. Because this is a shift in consciousness that are happening within us and beyond us. It's not about us becoming better. I hate that kind of almost kind of toxic spiritual understanding of transformation. So that's not what I mean when I talk about a shift in consciousness, but it's a shift in presence on this planet. It's a shift in understanding our role as stewards, guardians, caretakers. It's about remembering our role as Homo sapiens, which means the wise beings. And right now, our presence, our collective presence on this planet, is not one of a wise being. So this journey is gathering people that are all physically feeling that we are in this realm of the liminal space, a space of breakdowns and breakthroughs and collapse and rebirth. And it can be an exciting space to navigate. It's also overwhelming and can be incredibly lonely. So this is also a space where we are gathering some of those that may often feel like a lonely wolf, that are longing for a wolf pack. And you don't have to identify by a wolf to be very welcomed here. And I'm saying this because we had at a session a couple of years ago had a few people saying that I want to be part of this wolf pack, but I identify more as the eagle or the squirrel. So all beings are welcome, but it's that understanding that it can be a very lonely trail to place, and we need each other in these times. We need community, and this is not the only community that exists for people that are longing for a regenerative path, but it's one of them. It's one of those strong communities where you can explore, experiment, but also rest and lean back, because you understand that you are part of a wolf pack that wants the same as you do, that wants to gather around this fire. Sometimes you want to excitedly share a new idea. Other times you just want to be in the periphery, reading a book and resting and lean into this community. So what we often experience is that because we are together for a full year, we experience, all of us, that we are going through different energies in our lives. Sometimes we are bursting with the spring energy. At other times we are more in the kind of autumn, early winter energy. And all energies are always welcome here. That's part of the potential and power of being stronger together. So we will now stop for a few minutes just to bring our bodies and our whole selves with us in this little December session, but also just to ground yourself into, what are you longing for? What is calling for your attention? What feels alive in you? So the invitation is to either journal or just close your eyes and tune in with that question. What feels alive in me? What is calling for my attention? And Judith will play some music for us, and we have around 3 minutes to just sense into what feels alive in me. anyone that would like to share, either you can raise your hand, you can put in the chat something that feels alive in you. What feels alive in this group? Ilse is sharing inspiration, curiosity, learning. Sophie is sharing the need for humanity. Nico is sharing a quest for human connection and self-care. Emmanuel is sharing togetherness, imagining the world we want to live in. Belen is sharing hope. Sveta is sharing community. Just is sharing harmony. Zeynep is sharing curiosity and love. Pukra is sharing. Pukra, is that, do I pronounce it correctly? Let me know if not. Is sharing, I feel like I have found my wolf pack. I feel part of a larger ecosystem. Wonderful. My read, was that correctly? My read?
Mairead, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a bit of that, especially in the beginning of the journey, learning global names and getting familiar with that. Lovavo, Natalia Lovavo, my own family, a living system.
Yeah, correct. It's well pronounced.
Natalie sharing creativity, grounding, slowing down. Fox is sharing nourishment, composting. Lunkin on device. That cannot have been the right pronunciation. Do we want to step in and say your name?
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Lonneke.
Lonneke.
Yeah, and this is my my work account, so that's why the name is strange. It says Lonk is the name of my company, and I'm a teacher, so it says Lonk in education.
You in the Netherlands?
I'm from the Netherlands, yes.
The book Regenerative Leadership came out last month in the Netherlands.
Ah, that's good news.
A healthy environment to grow, compassion, connection to nature, collective action, compassion, and wholeness. You bring such beautiful words into this space. We don't have time to read them all, but do yourself a favor and read through them and take in those words. It's actually very moving. And last week we had the closing ceremony of this year's, the 25th cohort. And I found myself just kind of with these calm, slow tears on my cheek all day because there's so much nastiness, so many dark things happening on our planet, but there's also so many human beings that are here with fierce, open, vulnerable hearts, ready to roll up their sleeves and be an antidote to this. And it always brings me such great hope, and a calm, grounded sense of joy. So thank you, everyone, for offering your beautiful words. Judith, you are actually yourself an alumni. You were on the 23rd journey, 2023.
Yeah, that's right.
I've been the community nurturer for a little over a year now. It's been such a pleasure collaborating with you. And Judith is holding space as the community nurturer for you on the 26th journey, but is also part of a team collectively sensing into the abundance of potentials that is happening across journey cohorts. We have many regional groups that are gathering physically. We have many theme-based groups. We have a group of regenerators activators, we have called them, that are dedicated to weaving together, for example, a Regenerators podcast, or what could be an idea of how we can prototype an incubator program for startups, weaving these regenerative principles in from the beginning. So that's part of our soil. Can you speak a bit more about that, Judith?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Lovely to see you. I have goosebumps just reading your words and kind of like, well, they are all already kind of like in community. And so, yeah, thank you so much for that. And I think that to get our an understanding of what it's like to be in this community is to understand also that this journey is actually a lifelong journey, that maybe you have been already in some sort of like initiation to regeneration. Maybe this is the first time that you hear of it, but the journey as we are holding here a space for a year is maybe just part of it, because we all understand that it's something that continues after. And there's many other communities, there's many other circles that are exploring this. And the way that we also approach this is that in the journey, we come together to receive this wisdom, to receive these opportunities to practice together. And then we have so many other ways to continue doing this. And one of the most important things that we do as we come together, Laura shared already about how it can be very challenging to be on the journey with the insights that we receive, with the transformations that we go through. It can also be so beautiful and so emotional, and it's a year-long journey. So a lot of things happen during the year. I remember in 2023, I started like in a kind of like moment of traveling and finding like all my own grounding, and I went through a lot of up and downs during that year. And being in this community, beyond even like what we do, just being together was something that really marked that year for me. And it has continued doing that years and years over. So we don't take for granted that we are coming together. It's like we intentionally also explore how do we want to be together. And if you have seen, for example, the website, you probably have read at some point that we talk about the soil agreement, that this soil agreement is how we want to be together in the space for this journey, for the moments when we share in the insight sessions, when we are together just sharing and just talking about what is alive for us, and also like in the different asynchronous spaces as well. It's important that we agree on how do we want together, not as rules, not as guidelines of a community and like I am allowed to do this or I'm not. It's just an agreement that we all come together. So we provide with a base of like some basics, let's say, but then during the beginning of the journey, we hear from you. We want to know, how is it for you to feel nurtured? How do you want to be together in community? And then we wave that in, and we co-create a bespoke soil agreement for the journey cohort of that year. And as I say, that's something that lives within us during the whole year, that we hold together to be able to have a community that is safe to speak up, to explore what is happening, the transformations, and to also be courageous and brave to go through all the ups and downs and the challenges that we will face together. And that also, of course, expands and continues after the journey. We have an alumni community of more than 1,000 people across 70 countries. And we always keep on like seeing how can we cross-pollinate with those who have already been there on the journey, on the academy courses, and how can we, just keep on like mixing and seeing the richness and the abundance of this community. So I think that in that sense, for example, maybe Melanie can speak a bit more of what it's like to be an alumni, as Melanie is one of the co-pollinators in the community of care and practice.
Yeah, thank you. Lovely seeing you all here. And the community of care and practice is basically, especially what you, Judith, was just talking about. On the one hand side, this is a safe space for alumni in the Regenerators ecosystem and of the academy, and to have a space where we come together, where there are relationships, nurture our relationships of kinship and also belonging, but also at the same time get into practice what we have experienced, for instance, during the journey, and after leaving this container of the journey and starting also getting into our own practices, to come together and practice that, where it's a semi um, a semi self-organized space. So we as pollinators, we're kind of hosting and the space and nurturing the fire. But it's the community members, so the alumni of the journey, who host the spaces, who bring in their ideas, who bring in their approaches, which they have come up during the journey and or after the journey, and sometimes start testing their own approaches, and which they then also take to the outer world. And so it's really this community of care, so coming together and having also this continued wolf pack relationships, nurturing them, and at the same time it's also a space to practice what we have learned and to not just let it fade out, but to really stay also there in a space to nurture what muscles we have also trained and started to nurture during the journey, I would say.
Thank you so much, Melanie. And in the community of care and practice, that's not a space that I'm holding. It is, as Melanie was saying, it's held by alumni, and they self-organize and find out what themes needs to be held space for. But it is a held space, so there are next year there will be 3 designated space holders of that alumni network. But that was just to share some of the kind of the aliveness of this wider ecosystem. All of this is the community of care and practice is for you next year. But just to let you know that there's something after this, because as we've said a couple of times already, this is not a 10-step kind of quick fix process. This is more of a space holder for your continued lifelong journey. It's a way of either strengthening that journey you're already on, or maybe initiating that. And then we have the community of care and practice as a space for you on the other side of that. I'll just share a bit about how the journey is designed, and then we will hear from more of our journey travelers. So we have designed the journey around the energetic seasons of the year. And the reason I say energetic seasons is that because we are from all over the planet, it doesn't make sense to travel by the season that we have in one part of the world. So we go through this cycle as a way of exploring what does the energy of winter feels like. We start in the energy of winter because we start by nourishing soil, understanding relationships in the soil, understanding ourselves as part of soil, understanding kinship, understanding our role as good ancestors, but also understanding, as I explored before, the story of separation. And then we move into the energy of spring, which is us understanding the wisdom principles of life. What is the logic of life? What are the design principles of life? And how can we bring that into our role as leaders from all walks of life? And we define leadership as something that we can all embody. It's not a title, it's a presence on the planet, that we all take leadership for being a nourishing part of the greater web of life. So spring is all about the wisdom of life, understanding our role as ecosystem facilitators, understanding the DNA framework as one of the many frameworks that we understand. How can we explore this inner and outer dimension into our work? Then the summer season is dedicated to us experimenting and trying out things in our projects. And we have 2 months dedicated to wisdom seat sessions where journey travelers present a challenge they have, and we tap into the collective wisdom of the journey travelers to explore what could be regenerative pathways, what could be regenerative ways of holding this tension, this challenge, this opportunity. And then we start to weave into the phase of the journey where we focus on integration and implementation, harvesting, reflecting on what we have learned, exploring archetypes, exploring essence, exploring key capacities. And then we bring it all together towards the end of the journey, and we explore rituals and ceremonies and rite of passage in the month of December. We gather quite a few times throughout the year. We gather every month, has an insight session, which is more me presenting cases, frameworks, ideas, things that we can weave with. We have group breakouts exploring these frameworks, ideas, cases. We come back, we share in plenary. And then we have a monthly emergence sessions, which is a session where we hold space for what is alive in the journey this month, exploring the theme of the month, what feels alive for us. So it's an unplanned, we just hold space for what feels alive. Then we have cafe sessions, which is we have 4 cafe sessions a year, which is an opportunity of you meeting alumni. Judit and I are not holding space for that, but that's just a tap in to the community cafe. Then we have quite a few guest sessions. I'll come back to them in a minute. And then we have community-led sessions in the autumn. So we gather quite regularly. But as Judith was alluring to, because she also had a moment in the journey where life called for her attention in a way where she couldn't show up every month. So because we are together for a full year, if you miss out on a couple of sessions, that's still okay. You are still part of this container. You are still on a journey, and you have access to all of the recorded sessions for quite a few years. So we stress again and again throughout this journey, please don't stress. Please also see this as a way of shedding the perfectionist, kind of shedding the good student. Of course, we hope that you will show up, because the more we show up, the more we will all harvest, the more we will all co-create a living kind of field together. But we also want to stress that it is possible to weave in and out. There are 6 pre-recorded core modules that we highly recommend that you go through, and we will let you know which month is it great that you tap into this module, how should you prepare for the session, etc. They are not super long. The longest one is module 5, which I think is an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. But it's like 45 minutes, an hour per module to prepare ahead of at least 6 of the sessions. I just wanted to show you some illustrations that the artist Anna Dinadin has done for us as a way of capturing the essence of this. Is her capturing the essence of the Wisdom of Life module. This is her capturing the essence of the of our role as ecosystem facilitators, the role of the regenerative leader. This is her capturing the DNA framework, because I wanted an expression of this framework that wasn't visually a rigid framework, but more had that energy of, this is not about you being perfect in specific frameworks. It's about you understanding the elements of the wholeness, but then it's about you with your hearts, with a strong root network, weaving a tapestry of life with the threads that you need in that specific place-based situation. These are the guest speakers this year. So we have an abundance of regenerative thinkers and practitioners. We have Bayo Akomolafe, we have Daniel Christian Wahl, we have Lila June Johnston, Michelle Holiday, Kathia Laszlo, James Brittle, that will come and share from their field. These are all people that are that are offering their own frameworks, their own approach to this field, that are holding space for their own learning journeys. So we are cross-pollinating with a wider web of global communities that are also in community. And then we have 3 business cases. We have the co-founders of Zebra Growth holding space for a session around decolonizing marketing, something that they are very experienced in. We have Louise, who is head of leadership transformation at Mercedes-Benz. Vance, who have been on a regenerative leadership journey since the summer of 2022. A very fascinating case about how can we transform a global global corporation like Mercedes-Benz, that is, the headquarters is Stuttgart, Germany. It could not be more kind of rigid mechanistic machine. Very toxic culture, at least a couple of years ago, that Louise was fed up with. So she comes and share how she's on a journey rooted in regenerative leadership principles. They call it something else, but it's rooted in regenerative leadership principles. I often teach at many of their kind of offsite workshops, but it's interesting to get that understanding of how does a big corporation like Mercedes-Benz, what does it look like to put life at the center there? And then we have the founder of Burzog, the amazing Joost de Blok, coming and share his experience and journey of being on a decade-long self-organized journey. I don't know if any of you know of the Burzog case. They got very popular after Frederic Laloux's book, Reinventing Organization. They are a kind of state-of-the-art case in how can we hold space for the expansion of a super organism that is entering 15 different fields with a logic of let's hold space for what this living field, how it wants to self-organize. More about that when he is entering our space. This is what the course platform looks like when you're going through the different modules. So to the left-hand side, you can see all the modules. This is also where all of your recordings will be placed. We have a lot of bonus sections for you, previous guest speakers that have said, okay, that you can have this as part of your library of recordings. You have a workbook that we recommend you download to your computer. It's an editable PDF, so you can either write in it or you can print it out and have it as part of your journaling to guide you throughout this year-long journey. This is what the community space looks like on the inside. This is the space where you can write personal DMs to each other within the journey cohort. You can see the events that are happening next, access the Zoom link. You can write on the various discussion platforms, etc. So we are not based on Facebook or other platforms. This is the community platform that we use. This is a living library accessible for every alumni. That is a library of podcast, books, and other resources covering different themes that you can see to the left-hand side. If all of this sounds overwhelming, I just want to reiterate that you have access to this platform for a long time. How long, we don't know. But I never want to offer lifetime access, because what does lifetime mean? Is it my lifetime? Is it what lifetime is it? But the 22 journey travelers still have access to their content. So don't stress. This is something that you can have for a very long time to support you on your journey. I think I have shared about this already. We have a monthly insight session, a monthly emergent session. We have a total of, I think we are at 10 guest speakers this year Then we have the cafe sessions. Then you all have the opportunity of join a home circle. A home circle is a circle or a mini network within the network of 6 to 8 other journey travelers that we put together based on wishes for when they want to gather, and maybe they have specific desires in terms of what kind of group they want to be in. We try to accommodate that, but we can't promise everything. But it's just we know from experience that it's really beneficial to journey travelers to prioritize the time to also have a more intimate circle to travel with, and that throughout a full year you can get to know each other fairly deeply. Maybe you don't want that, and that's totally fine. Some journey travelers are like, this is too much for me. I don't have the time, and that's totally fine and okay. But it's an opportunity for all of you. And then we have community-led sessions. We have quite a few physical gatherings. The next one will be in West Nigeria. I think we have Emmanuel, our sibling from West Nigeria, who will hold space for that physical gathering. So let's maybe hear from him. What else? How much time does the journey require from me? I would say a minimum of attending the monthly live sessions, and throughout the year, find time to watch the 6 pre-recorded modules. You always benefit the most from showing up, and there's at least 4 months in the beginning from March to June. It's highly recommendable that you take time to do the quote unquote homework before you show up to the session. But you're still welcome to show up, and people do that if they haven't had the time. We always welcome people to show up live. You just benefit the most if you have done the exercises beforehand. All right, I'll stop sharing and see if there's a few of our alumni who are present that would like to share a bit about what does it feel like to be on the journey. Emmanuel, maybe we start with you because you are also our host for the gathering in April. How has it been for you to be part of the journey and our community? It's good to see you again. You need to unmute.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tero Emmanuel Izoburam from Nigeria in West Africa. I am so happy and glad to be part of this community. Yes, it has been awesome, and I am so grateful that I became part of this very community. When life becomes like when life was falling apart for me and everything around me, I could hardly remember what it means to be alive. And then, but one thing kept me going: purpose. I was so connected. I was so connected to my land. I was so connected to an ancestral land in my community called Akama. Is erosion is an erosion, a degrading landscape. I was so connected to it that I felt like the last thing that I will have to do in this life is to find a way to get some persons, humans, that could help my people regenerate the landscape. But somehow, when I joined this very journey, um, I was regenerated myself. Life came back into me. I regained life. I started wanting to live again. I started wanting to see beautiful things. And then that's how my land started receiving that very intent that I have for it, intentions of regenerating it, intentions of restoring the degrading landscape. And then this coming April 2026, we are holding hosting the Regenerators family. It is the first Regenerators gathering in Africa, in West Africa precisely. And then it's happening in Oko community, my own community, my land, in that same erosion site where life brought me up to go and look out for. So I can say that we are ready and the land is ready to receive the regenerator sibling come April 2026. And then we have a rich cultural heritage in this place. Everyone will be well entertained, and you will be so happy if you happen to make it down to this place. So I am grateful and I am happy to be part of this very community, and it has and the journey so far is the only thing that matters to me. The journey so far defined everything for me. It is not about knowing everything. It is not about understanding everything now. You just have to give yourself time. You just have to be patient with yourself, and then you will get there. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel. That was beautiful. And I want to stress that traveling to West Nigeria is might be far for some of us, but this is really the potential lifetime experience to be part of the Akama project, which is a project that Emmanuel has started, which is focused on regenerating degraded landscape, as he was saying. And we will be there in the midst of the planting season. So we are not spectators. We are rolling up our sleeves and contributing to this in Emmanuel's local community. It's such a gift that he has opened the doors to us. Judith will also travel there. And this is an invitation for everyone that joins the 26th journey as well. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. I'm just looking at the various questions in the chat. Sophie's asking, how do these seasons and energies resonate with people closer to equator where there are perhaps 2 seasons or a dry and a wet season? So for us, it's not the seasons we necessarily have when we look outside the window. For us, it's a way of weaving in all the energetic seasons of a full cycle. So embodying and exploring with how does spring energy feel like? How does summer energy feel like? How does the harvesting feel like? How does the wintering feel like? Because it's important for us to also cultivate a capacity to hold all seasons throughout a day. How can we design a cyclical approach to our life? How can we be more mindful? So we do that as a way of playing with the energetic seasons, but it doesn't matter where you are in the world. Hope that makes sense. But just what can we learn from each season? How can we become comfortable navigating every season? Nico is sharing which criteria the home circle's based on to be formed. Judith, you having a response to that. Is there anything you want to add to that, Judith, about the process?
Just in case somebody hasn't seen it. So the home circle process, it can be from, I'm okay being matched with whoever, or it can be like, I actually prefer to be connected to people in my region, or I want to invite regional diversity, or I want to connect with those in my field, or I prefer also more diversity in that sense. So it can be anything. And then we take all of the answers at the beginning of the journey, and then we do the matching.
Yes. Thank you, Judith. Any Dutch people here and any Australians here? The Dutch community in our wider community is quite strong. They are having regional gatherings. There's each region self-organize if they want to have a group on WhatsApp or Signal or Telegram. So we are spread on quite a few platforms because some regions wants to be gathered there and others there, and that's one example of things that we don't wish to control. But I know that the Dutch community is very active, and I think they are based on WhatsApp. So they are gathering quite frequently, having virtual sessions just for them. It's the same, I think, but I'm not involved in all of the regions. But the Danish group is quite strong, and through the Danish community, I'm Danish as well. We have we initiated actually a co-op kind of organization called Regenerative Voices, but in Danish. We had the first Regenerative Voices Festival 2.5 years ago, and that's now it's a self-owned co-op thing where you can become a member. Germany is quite strong, the US, France, Brazil, but I'm not up to date with the aliveness and all of the groups. I think we have probably around, I don't know, a total of 50 Australians through across cohorts. But if you both join, Courtney and Maria, you will at least have each other next year. Naomi is asking, anyone thinking about joining from the northeast part of United States? I don't know. We always have quite a lot of people from the US, so I can almost guarantee you there will be people from the US. And we have, I don't know if we have shared that, but every live session, not the guest sessions, but we gather for the live integration, the insight sessions, we gather in European morning, European afternoon to make sure that all time zones can access these. And the emergent session where we just hold space for what's alive, we alternate. So every kind of the first month we start gathering in the morning, then the second month afternoon, third month morning, so that everyone gets to be part of these types of sessions as well, and everything is recorded. Belen is asking, are there fixed live sessions at a specific date every month? All the dates are on our website. So it's not we're not gathering every second Thursday or something like that. It alternates. Again, if someone knows they can never make it on Thursdays, we didn't want to pick a fixed date. But I think the live integration sessions, they are never on Mondays and Fridays. So it is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Bum, ba, bum. Anything else, Nico? Natalie's asking, thank you for that question, Natalie. Do organizations join or is it general more individual participation? It's both. We always have teams from municipalities or companies that are taking the journey together. That has been a pattern every year. So they are as a team of, I think the maximum of people we have had was 18 people that were from the same organization going on the journey together. And it can be very beneficial. In a municipality, from a municipality this year, we had the whole HR department because they could then use this to kind of spar with each other. We have startups where the two founders decide to take the journey together. So that's a pattern that many organizations are sending teams or even whole departments to take the journey together. But there's a lot of individual journey travelers as well, so it's both and. I'm Indian living in Finland, working with social impact women founders. I feel like I would want to be part of a few circles. Can I, or is it just one? What do you mean, Pukrai? Could maybe unmute yourself. So all of the self-organized regional-based groups, join as many as you want, but I mean, if you don't speak Dutch and have never been to the Netherlands or planning to go, maybe not join that group.
Hey, Laura, yeah, I think you answered my question. I was talking more about the home circles, that could you be part of many if you feel it's aligned to your interests or, identity. But yeah, thank you for answering. You already did.
So home circle, you have one home circle that are
Okay.
on the current cohort. But then we have self-organized regional groups that we are not directly involved in, that has just kind of happened over time. Join those that are relevant for you. And then we have theme-based groups. We have a very active coaching group because we have a lot of coaches in our group that want to explore together, how does this apply to the world of coaching? We have a very active, I think, biomimicry group, for nature therapy group, architecture group. We have too many to count groups, and I'm not involved in most of them. But that's part of the beauty of this ecosystem, that things are happening because individuals are rolling up the sleeves and say, I would love to facilitate or initiate a group on this theme. And here is the link, and join. So when you join the journey, you receive from us an overview of all of the groups and with links to access them. And you access those that lights you up. All right. Strategic Communications Group. There's quite a lot of, there is a big group around storytelling and communication and marketing. How can we redefine how we tell stories and how we do marketing? If there's this particular strategic communications group, I don't know, but there is quite an active communications group that you're welcome to join. How different is the 6-week journey to the year-long experience? Hi, Anya. So Anya was on the 6-week mini journey, which we did for the first time this year, this autumn or late summer in Europe. So I used to do quite a lot of shorter journeys, but then many people longed to be together for a longer time. So the year-long experience, you are in this container for a longer period of time. We get the time to explore many more topics and go deeper than what is possible in a shorter container. Another reason I want and am very passionate about a year-long journey is that this is not a quick fix. And a lot of things can happen in 6 weeks' time. And we made it accessible because some people felt it was overwhelming to be in a container for a full year. But I have just seen again and again and again the awe-inspiring transformation that can happen within people when they are traveling together for a long time. And transformation that I don't hold space for, but is happening within the ecosystem because you get to know each other more deeply. There are many deep friendships formed, new companies that have started in our soil, partnerships that are emerging, and that just takes a bit more time. So we get to cover more cases, more content, and we get to know each other deeply. I think is the shortest way of answering. Do we have any more alumni present here that would love to share with potential siblings what this experience has felt like? We have no one here. Emmanuel, you were there as well, weren't you?
Yeah. Is this Emmanuel? Yeah.
I was looking at you. I don't know if you noticed.
No, I was going first when you call Emmanuel from Nigeria. Sorry. Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm sorry I was late because I'm in New York and it's early, but I love my journey. It's just ending now, but like you said, it's not ending. And actually, what's interesting in my case is that I first heard about the journey with friends that I was making who had both done the journey, Konkonko, our elder from Cameroon, and Heidi Maria. And I grew close to them on Zoom. And then we did another workshop, Indigenous and Modern Together, that Konkonko was co-leading. And so we kept our relationship going. We met in person for the first time after COVID on the land in Portugal, the upcoming African Peace Village. And we're together again, weaving it online and on land. And it's so much about, in the beginning, how we all met. It's through the academy and through you, Laura. So it was like this very special gift, of like the live case study, the new friendship, the wealth of, they were 2 years earlier than me, I think. But this is how it all began. So it's a very rich community of friend making, and it just feels good. It feels like we're working together on something huge, but because we're together and we're safe, and anything is possible too. So it's curiosity and just like, oh, I love the cross-pollination and the weaving. So thank you again.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so Emmanuel is talking about Kunkanku, an indigenous elder from Cameroon that had to flee, that is now living in Portugal, met German Haida on the 22 journey cohort, and they have now developed a very deep friendship, a close friendship. Kunkanku has lived with Haida in Denmark for a while, and now they've moved together in Portugal to start up the African Peace Village that Emmanuel was mentioning, and are doing really amazing things together. And we have many of these projects, and that's also what I hope you bring into this ecosystem, a willingness to explore new partnerships, because we need each other on this journey. Hi, Melanie. Melanie, were you on the 24 journey?
23.
23.
I was in the second one. Yeah, I would like to share shortly my experience. It was like I came from the corporate world and was following first this path of what society or my society kind of told me what is or is a good way to live. And at a certain point, for myself, I started questioning that and opening up to new fields. And after 2 years, I got actually in contact for the first time with your work, Laura, and with the book. And then getting into the journey, it was for me giving pictures, names, and a wording to what I had experienced myself over those years after leaving the corporate world. And where for myself, I noticed like, okay, I want to follow this direction, because in university, very often I learned about patterns and theory in economic classes, where I felt like, okay, I understand, I get the theory, but how could this work in a healthy way over a longer time? And that was for me when I was in the journey, that giving me words, pictures, but also a reality to a certain extent, and examples from reality, that there are really other ways of doing which are healthy over a longer period of time. And especially also space, getting together with other people who are experimenting also in many ways and trying new ways of going in more life-affirming, more life-serving approaches, and not just what we had learned because somebody said it would be that way. And right now there are also some here where we are in starting new ideas, working together over people I had met on the journey who are now coming here again. So it's just a really beautiful ecosystem.
Thank you, Melanie, and thank you for all that you do to contribute to everything. All right, we are coming towards the end of our hour and a half together. Yeah? Anyone wanted to say something? No? Yes, Judith, is there anything that I have forgotten to say? I've forgotten to say that we also have a scholarship opportunity. Right?
Yeah, we do have scholarships for folks from the global majority, global south. And if you also, for example, do not identify as from the global south and global majority, we also can offer half a scholarship for those navigating financial constraints in the global north. So yeah, if that's the limitation for entering the journey, don't make it.
Yeah, just noticed the application deadline. I can't. Do you remember by heart the deadline?
We have it in the 9th of January. So there's time if you are in the festive season in the next weeks, you can take some time.
Yeah. And December 19, so that is 3 days from now. The discount, we have a discount code that we will also share with you again after this session in a follow-up email. So that's the final date for you to sign up before that disappears. The scholarships, for us, it's important that we are as accessible as possible. It's also important for us to stress that part of our business model is to pay it forward. So we invest in indigenous-led projects focused on land regeneration. So in a couple of days' time, we will announce what we have invested in this year. That's part of our business model. Might be interesting for you to know that. Any final questions? I hope to see as many of you as possible. So back to how we started, a little stretch, closing the eyes, turning the gaze inward. Remember your breath. That revitalizer we always have access to. And then the invitation is to gather your hands in front of your chest area and start rubbing your hands together and generate some energy and aliveness in your hands. Sensing how the warmth increases. And then put your hands on your face and just take that energy in. It was lovely to be in your presence. We hope we see you next year, but regardless, have a wonderful final stretch of this year, and so much love to you all. Bye.